The blizzard hit without mercy on the evening Amelia Dawson stepped off the stagecoach in Alta, Utah, clutching a faded photograph against her chest like it was the only thing keeping her heart beating. The year was 1882, and the mountain town sat nestled in Little Cottonwood Canyon, a place where silver miners carved hope from stone and winter arrived early and stayed late. She had traveled 3 weeks from Philadelphia, every mile taking her further from the ruins of what used to be her life. And now she stood in 2 feet of fresh powder with nowhere to go and no one waiting for her arrival. The stage driver had already begun unhitching the horses, barely glancing her way as she struggled with her single trunk. The other passengers had scattered into the failing light, locals who knew exactly where they belonged. Amelia watched them disappear into the white curtain of falling snow, her thin traveling cloak doing nothing against the mountain cold. She looked down at the photograph in her gloved hand. Her mother and father stood in front of their Philadelphia townhouse, frozen in time before the fire that took everything, before the debts, before the shame that sent her fleeing west with nothing but her teaching certificate and the hollow promise of a position at a school that she was beginning to suspect did not exist. You planning to stand there until you freeze solid? The voice came from behind her, rough as gravel but not unkind. Amelia turned and saw him for the first time. He was tall, over 6 feet, with dark hair that curled slightly beneath his wide-brimmed hat, now dusted white with snow. His face was weathered from sun and wind, probably around 26 or 27 years old, with gray eyes that seemed to see more than she wanted to reveal. He wore a heavy wool coat and leather gloves, and unlike her, he looked like he belonged in this harsh landscape. "I am waiting for someone," she said, trying to keep her voice steady despite the cold seeping into her bones. "Who might that be?" "A Mr. Carlyle. He runs the school here. I am the new teacher." Something shifted in those gray eyes, not quite pity but close. "There is no school in Alta." "Not anymore. Closed down 2 months back when the last teacher left and they could not find funding to keep it running. Most folks send their children down to Sandy if they can afford it." The world tilted slightly beneath Amelia's feet. She had spent every cent she had on the journey west. She had no money for return passage. She had no family to wire for help even if her pride would allow it. The photograph in her hand suddenly felt heavier, like it was pulling her down into the snow to disappear forever. "I see," she managed, though she did not see at all. Nothing made sense. Everything was crumbling again, just like it had when she watched her childhood home burn, just like when the creditors came, just like when she realized she was completely alone in the world at 23 years old. The man studied her face, and she watched him make some kind of decision. "Name is Nathan Keller. I have got a ranch about 3 miles from here. It is not much, but it is warm and there is food. You can stay the night at least, figure out what to do come morning." "I could not possibly impose," Amelia said automatically, even as her body screamed at her to accept, to get out of this cold before she lost feeling in her extremities completely. "You have got another option?" Nathan asked, and there was no cruelty in the question, just plain fact. She did not. They both knew it. "Just tonight," she heard herself say. "I will find something tomorrow." Nathan nodded and hefted her trunk like it weighed nothing. "Livery is this way. I have got my wagon." Amelia followed him through the snow, still clutching her photograph. The town of Alta was small, just a collection of rough buildings clinging to the mountainside. She could see lights in windows, smoke rising from chimneys, the promise of warmth that felt impossibly distant. Her feet were numb in her impractical boots, and she stumbled once. Nathan glanced back but did not comment, just slowed his pace slightly so she could keep up. The livery stable was warmer, filled with the smell of hay and horses. Nathan's wagon was sturdy, built for mountain winters, and his horses were strong draft animals that barely flicked their ears at the storm. He loaded her trunk, then helped her up onto the bench seat. His hands were strong and steady, and even through her gloves she could feel the warmth of them. He climbed up beside her and took the reins. "It is a bit of a ride. Storm is getting worse." "Why did you offer to help me?" Amelia asked as they pulled out into the white darkness. She could barely see 10 feet ahead, but Nathan seemed to navigate by instinct. "Would you rather I left you standing there?" "No, but most people would have." Nathan was quiet for a moment, guiding the horses with practiced ease. "My mother used to say that how you treat strangers says everything about who you are when no one is keeping score. She died 3 years back, but I figure her words still hold weight. I am sorry for your loss. And I am sorry for whatever brought you out here with nothing but one trunk and a photograph you hold like a lifeline." Amelia looked down at the photograph, now tucked partially into her cloak to protect it from the snow. "It is all I have left of them, my parents. There was a fire." "How long ago?" "6 months. My father had debts I did not know about. After the fire, the creditors took everything. I thought if I could just get far enough away, start over somewhere no one knew me, I could build something new." Her voice cracked slightly. "That seems foolish now. Starting over is never foolish. It just is not ever as clean as we hope it will be." They rode in silence after that, the only sounds the crunch of snow under the wagon wheels and the steady breathing of the horses. Amelia had never experienced cold like this. In Philadelphia, winter was cold, but this was different. This was the kind of cold that made you understand how small and fragile human life really was against the vastness of nature. Just when she thought she might actually freeze to death on this wagon bench, she saw lights ahead. The ranch house materialized out of the darkness like something from a dream. It was not large, but it was solid, built to withstand these brutal winters. Smoke rose from the chimney, and warm light glowed in the windows. There was a barn nearby, and several other outbuildings she could barely make out through the snow. "We are here," Nathan said, pulling the horses to a stop near the barn. "Let me get these animals settled, then I will show you inside. Can I help?" He looked at her thin cloak and impractical boots. "You can get yourself to the house. Door is unlocked. There is a fire going. Get warm." Amelia did not argue. She climbed down from the wagon, her legs stiff and clumsy from the cold, and made her way to the house. The door opened easily, and warmth hit her like a physical force. She stumbled inside and closed the door behind her, leaning against it as feeling began to return to her face and hands in painful prickles. The interior was simple, but well kept. A large stone fireplace dominated one wall, fire crackling behind an iron grate. There was a kitchen area with a black iron stove, a sturdy wooden table with 4 chairs, and a couple of comfortable-looking chairs near the fireplace. Stairs led up to what she assumed were bedrooms. Everything was clean and organized in a way that spoke of a man who took care of his space. She moved closer to the fire, setting her photograph carefully on the mantel, before removing her wet cloak and gloves. Her dress was damp at the hem, and her hair had come loose from its pins during the journey. She must look like a drowned rat, she thought, but she was too grateful for the warmth to care much. The door opened and Nathan came in, brushing snow from his shoulders. He removed his hat and coat, hanging them on pegs by the door. Without the layers, she could see he was lean but muscular, built like someone who did hard physical labor every day. His dark hair was slightly damp, curling against his collar. "You look warmer already," he observed. "Let me make some coffee and heat up some stew. You must be starving." "I do not want to be any trouble. If it was trouble, I would not have offered. He moved into the kitchen area with easy familiarity, stoking the stove and putting a kettle on to boil. Besides, I do not often get company out here. It is nice to have someone to talk to besides the horses and cattle. You run this ranch alone, mostly. I've got a couple of hands who come help during branding and when we move the herd, but day to day it is just me. I like it that way. Quiet. Amelia watched him move around the kitchen, efficient and capable. How long have you had this place? My father built it 20 years ago. I grew up here. When he died 5 years back, it became mine. It is not the biggest ranch in the territory, but we do all right. The cattle are hardy enough for these winters, and I sell beef to the mining camps and down in Salt Lake City. He ladled stew into 2 bowls and brought them to the table along with thick slices of bread. The coffee was strong and hot, and the stew was surprisingly good, rich with meat and vegetables. Amelia ate slowly at first, trying to maintain some semblance of manners, but hunger won out and she found herself eating with genuine appetite. "When did you last eat?" Nathan asked, watching her. "Yesterday morning. I ran out of money for food 2 days ago." His jaw tightened slightly, but he did not comment, just pushed the bread basket closer to her. "Eat as much as you want. There is plenty." They ate in companionable silence for a while. Amelia kept glancing at her photograph on the mantel, reassuring herself it was still there. Nathan followed her gaze. "They look like good people, your parents." "They were. My father was a banker. My mother was involved in every charity organization in Philadelphia. They had plans for me. A good marriage, a comfortable life. They would be horrified to see me now, accepting charity from a stranger in the middle of nowhere. Or maybe they would be glad you are resourceful enough to survive when everything fell apart." Amelia considered this. "I would like to think so." After dinner, Nathan showed her upstairs. There were 2 bedrooms, both small but comfortable. "This was my sister's room," he said, opening the door to one. "She married a man from Salt Lake City 4 years back. Visits sometimes in summer, but not often." The room had a bed with a thick quilt, a small dresser, and a window that probably had a nice view when it was not dark and snowing. "It is perfect, thank you. I will bring up your trunk. There is water in the pitcher if you want to wash up. Privy is out back, but there is a chamber pot under the bed if you do not want to brave the cold." "Mr. Keller, I cannot possibly repay your kindness." "Nathan," he corrected. "And I am not asking for repayment. Sometimes people just need help. Tomorrow we will figure out what comes next." He brought up her trunk and bid her good night, closing the door behind him. Amelia stood in the quiet room, listening to his footsteps retreat down the hall. She moved to the window and looked out at the storm. Snow fell so thick she could not see anything beyond it, just endless white. She thought about how close she had come to dying out there tonight, how easily she could have frozen to death waiting for a school that did not exist, for a future that was just another lie. But she had not died. She was here, warm and fed with at least one night of safety. She retrieved her photograph from downstairs, careful not to disturb Nathan, who had settled into one of the chairs by the fire with a book. Back in her room, she studied her parents' faces by lamplight. They looked so sure of themselves, so certain of their place in the world. She wondered what they would think of her now, if they would see her survival as strength or just prolonged failure. She changed into her nightgown and climbed into bed. The quilt was heavy and warm, and the mattress was more comfortable than she expected. Outside, wind howled against the house, but inside she was safe. As she drifted towards sleep, her last thought was of gray eyes that looked at her not with pity, but with something like understanding. She woke to bright light streaming through the window. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world transformed. Everything was white and pristine, sparkling under brilliant sunshine. The mountains rose around the valley, massive and beautiful and terrifying in their indifference to human concerns. Amelia dressed quickly in the cold room, choosing her most practical dress and pinning her brown hair into a neat bun. She could smell coffee and something baking. When she went downstairs, she found Nathan at the stove flipping flapjacks. "Morning," he said. "Hope you are hungry." "I am, actually. I slept better than I expected. Mountain air will do that. Have a seat." She poured herself coffee and sat at the table. Through the window she could see the barn and beyond it, snow-covered pastures stretching toward the mountains. It was beautiful in a harsh, unforgiving way. Nathan brought over a plate stacked with flapjacks and a jar of syrup. "I was thinking about your situation. There might not be a school here, but there are families scattered through these mountains who would probably pay for lessons if you were willing to travel to them. The winters make that hard, but come spring, you could probably earn enough to support yourself. That is months away. I cannot impose on you for months. Well, here is the thing. I could use help around here. Nothing heavy but cooking, mending, keeping the house organized. My sister used to handle that when she lived here, but since she left, I have been doing it all myself and I am not particularly good at it. If you were willing to work, you could stay through winter. I can pay you a small wage enough that by spring, you would have money saved to find a place in town and start your teaching." Amelia stared at him. "You are offering me a job. I am offering a fair trade. You need a place to stay and some way to earn money. I need help that I am not good at asking for. Seems like it could benefit both of us. People will talk. A single woman staying at a bachelor's ranch. People always talk. But Alta is small enough that they will get bored of it quick, and besides, most folks around here are more concerned with surviving than gossiping. If it worries you, I can ask Reverend Thomas and his wife to vouch for your character. They are good people." It was too generous. It was suspicious. Except when Amelia looked at Nathan's face, she did not see any hidden agenda. She just saw a man offering a solution to a problem the same way he might fix a fence or mend a harness. Practical, straightforward. "Why are you helping me?" she asked again. "Because someone needs to and I can." He met her eyes steadily. "Look, I know what it is like to feel like the world is against you. When my father died, I was 21 years old and drowning in debt from his medical care. The ranch was about to be seized by the bank. A neighbor, old man named Peterson, gave me a loan with no interest, just told me to pay it back when I could. Took me 3 years, but I managed it. He died last year, but before he did, I asked him why he helped me. He said the same thing I am telling you, because someone needed to and he could. He told me to pass it along someday, so I guess I am passing it along." Amelia felt something loosen in her chest, some knot of fear and suspicion she had been carrying since Philadelphia. "All right, I will stay through winter and work for my keep, but I am paying you back too someday. If that is important to you, fine, but it is not required." They shook hands across the table, his grip warm and firm. It felt like the first real decision Amelia had made in months that might actually lead somewhere good. The days fell into a rhythm. Amelia woke early and made breakfast while Nathan did the morning chores in the barn. She learned to bake bread in the temperamental oven, to make stew that actually tasted good, to mend shirts and socks with neat, careful stitches. She cleaned the house, organized the pantry, and discovered she actually enjoyed the domestic work in a way she never had in her parents' house where servants did everything. Nathan worked long days despite the cold, caring for his small herd of cattle, repairing fences, chopping wood. He came in at dusk tired and hungry, but he always took time to talk with her over dinner. She learned he was 27, just 4 years older than her. He had been engaged once, to a girl from Sandy, but she had broken it off because she could not stand the isolation of ranch life. He read constantly, had a shelf full of books he ordered from Salt Lake City. He loved this harsh landscape in a way Amelia was only beginning to understand. She told him about Philadelphia, about her childhood that seemed like it belonged to someone else now, about her father's laugh and her mother's gentle hands, about the night the fire started, how she had been visiting a friend and came home to find everything consumed by flames, how the investigation revealed her father's debts, his desperate attempts to fix things that only made them worse, how the society that had embraced her parents turned their backs on her with stunning speed. "That is the thing about tragedy," Nathan said one evening as they sat by the fire after dinner. "It shows you who people really are. Most folks are only kind when it costs them nothing. You are not like that. I try not to be. My mother raised me better." 3 weeks into her stay, a storm rolled in that made the first blizzard look tame. For 2 days they were trapped inside as wind screamed and snow piled higher than the windows. Nathan showed her how to play poker with matchsticks for stakes, and she discovered she was better at bluffing than she thought. They read books aloud to each other. She mended every piece of clothing he owned while he carved a new handle for a broken axe. On the second night, as the storm raged outside, Nathan asked, "Do you miss Philadelphia?" Amelia considered the question carefully. "I miss who I was there. I miss the certainty of knowing what each day would bring, what was expected of me. But the actual city, the actual life, not as much as I thought I would. Everyone there was playing a role, being who they were supposed to be. Out here, it feels like people are just themselves. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense. That is what I love about this place. You are only what you prove yourself to be, not what your name or your money says you are. Is that why you never left? You could sell this ranch, move to Salt Lake City, have an easier life. Easier is not always better. Here I wake up and I know what needs doing. I work hard and I see the results of that work. My cattle thrive or they do not based on my decisions. The ranch prospers or fails based on my effort. There is something honest about that. And these mountains, they are in my blood now. I cannot imagine living anywhere I could not see them." Amelia looked at him in the firelight, his strong profile, the way his hands moved as he talked. Something had shifted between them over these weeks, something she had not intended or planned for. She had started noticing small things. The way he always made sure she took the warmest seat by the fire. How he left wildflowers on the kitchen table sometimes, claiming he just happened to see them. The way he listened when she talked, really listened, like her words mattered. "You are staring," Nathan said, glancing over with a slight smile. "I was just thinking that I am glad you were at the livery that night. If it had been anyone else, I do not know what would have happened. Someone else would have helped, maybe, but I am glad it was you." Their eyes held for a moment, and Amelia saw something flicker in his gaze, something warm and cautious. But then he looked away back to the fire, and the moment passed. Christmas came 2 weeks later. Nathan rode into town despite the cold and came back with supplies and a small parcel wrapped in brown paper. On Christmas morning, he gave it to her shyly. Inside was a leather-bound journal and a good pen. "I noticed you do not have much in the way of personal things," he said. "Thought you might like something to write in. Record your thoughts or maybe write letters, whatever you want." Amelia held the journal like it was precious. "I love it, but I did not get you anything. You have given me plenty. The house is cleaner than it has been in years. I am eating better than I ever have, and it has been nice having someone to talk to. That is gift enough." But Amelia felt the inadequacy of arriving with nothing, having nothing to give. So she spent the day cooking his favorite meal, roast beef with potatoes and carrots, and made a dried apple pie that turned out better than she hoped. They ate by firelight, and she told him stories her mother used to tell about Christmas in Boston when she was a child. Nathan told her about Christmases when his sister was young, when the house was full of noise and laughter. "You ever get lonely?" Amelia asked as they cleaned up the dishes together. "Sometimes, especially in winter when the days are short and I can go weeks without seeing anyone but my cattle. But I chose this life, so I figure loneliness is part of the price. It does not have to be, though. You could marry, have a family. Tried that once, remember? Most women do not want this life. Most women do not know what they are missing." Nathan looked at her, really looked at her, and Amelia felt her breath catch. "And do you know what you are missing? I am starting to understand." The air between them felt charged, full of unspoken possibilities. Nathan took a step closer, close enough that Amelia could smell leather and wood smoke on him. His hand came up, hovering near her face like he might touch her cheek, but then he pulled back. "I should check on the animals," he said, his voice rough. "Make sure they have enough hay for the night." He left quickly, and Amelia stood in the kitchen feeling like something important had almost happened, and she was not sure if she was relieved or disappointed that it had not. January brought brutal cold and more snow. Amelia fell into her work with new intensity, keeping the house spotless, cooking elaborate meals, anything to keep her hands busy and her mind from wandering to dangerous territory, because the truth was becoming impossible to ignore. She was falling for Nathan Keller. It was not like the romantic notions she had grown up with, reading novels about dashing heroes and swooning heroines. This was quieter, deeper. It was the way her heart lifted when she heard his footsteps on the porch, the way she found herself watching for him through the window as he worked, the way their conversations could stretch for hours without her noticing the time passing, the way she felt safe here, not just physically, but in some fundamental way she had not felt since her parents died, but she had no idea if he felt the same. He was kind and generous, but he was kind and generous by nature. The moment on Christmas could have been nothing, just proximity and firelight creating illusions. One afternoon in late January, Nathan came in early from his work, his face serious. "There is a dance in town Saturday night at the community hall. Most everyone goes, even in winter. I was thinking we could attend if you are interested." A dance! Amelia's mind immediately went to all the problems with this. She had nothing appropriate to wear. People would gossip. They would make assumptions. "I know it is probably not what you are used to. It is nothing fancy, just neighbors gathering. But I thought you might like to meet some folks, make some connections. When spring comes and you start teaching, it will help if people know you." He was being practical, thinking of her future, creating opportunities for her. It was thoughtful and kind and had nothing to do with wanting to dance with her himself. Amelia swallowed her disappointment and smiled. "That sounds nice. Thank you." Saturday arrived clear and cold. Amelia did her best with her limited wardrobe, choosing a dark blue dress that was at least clean and pressed. She arranged her hair carefully, allowing a few curls to frame her face. When she came downstairs, Nathan was waiting in his best shirt and a string tie, his hair neatly combed. He looked at her and something flickered across his face too quick for her to read. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "Thank you. You clean up well yourself." The ride to town was quiet, both of them wrapped in their own thoughts. When they arrived at the community hall, Amelia could hear music and laughter spilling out into the cold night. Inside, it was warm and crowded, maybe 50 people of all ages. The furniture had been pushed back to create a dance floor, and a small group of musicians played fiddle and guitar in one corner. Nathan kept a hand at the small of her back as they entered, guiding her through the crowd. He introduced her to what felt like dozens of people. The Reverend Thomas and his warm-hearted wife Martha, who immediately invited Amelia to tea. The blacksmith and his large family. Miners and their wives. Shop owners. Everyone was friendly, curious about the woman staying at Nathan Keller's ranch, but not unkind about it. Nathan is good people, Martha Thomas told Amelia when they found a quiet corner. If he vouches for you, that is enough for most folks here. Do not mind the gossip. It will die down soon enough. He has been very kind to me. He is a kind man, been alone too long though. That business with Elizabeth almost broke his heart, even if he would never admit it. Elizabeth, his former intended, shallow girl in my opinion, wanted the idea of a handsome rancher but not the reality of ranch life. Broke off the engagement 2 weeks before the wedding. Nathan acted like it did not matter, but we all saw how it changed him, made him more cautious. Before Amelia could respond, Nathan appeared at her elbow. "May I have this dance?" Her heart skipped. "I would be delighted." He led her onto the floor as the musicians struck up a waltz. Nathan's hand was warm on her waist, his other hand holding hers firmly. He was a good dancer, confident and smooth, and Amelia found herself following his lead easily. "You are full of surprises," she said. "Where did a rancher learn to waltz?" my mother insisted. She said a man should know how to dance, how to treat a lady proper. Drove me crazy as a kid, but I am grateful now. They moved together in comfortable synchronization, and Amelia was acutely aware of every point where their bodies touched. She could feel his breath stirring her hair, feel the solid strength of him. When she looked up, he was watching her with an intensity that made her mouth go dry. "Amelia, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" But before he could answer, another man cut in, a young miner named Jacob who had been introduced earlier. Nathan had no choice but to step back, though Amelia saw his jaw tighten with frustration. She danced with Jacob, who was nice enough but talked mostly about himself and his plans to strike silver. Then she danced with the blacksmith, who was sweet but stepped on her feet. She danced with several other men, all perfectly pleasant, but none of them were Nathan. She kept looking for him through the crowd, but he had disappeared. Finally, she excused herself and went outside for some air, the cold shocking after the overheated hall. She found Nathan standing in the snow looking up at the stars. "There you are. Is everything all right?" "Fine. Just needed some quiet." "What were you going to tell me?" Before Jacob interrupted, Nathan turned to face her, his expression unreadable in the darkness. "It does not matter now. It matters to me." He was quiet for a long moment then. "I was going to tell you that these past 2 months have been the best I have had in years, that I look forward to coming in at the end of the day because you will be there, that I find myself making excuses to stay in the house longer just to be near you. That somewhere along the way you stopped being a stranger I was helping and became someone I cannot imagine living without." Amelia's breath caught. "Nathan, I know it is not fair. You have plans for spring, plans that do not include being stuck on a ranch with me. You deserve more than this hard life. But I had to tell you because watching you dance with all those other men tonight, I realized I am halfway in love with you and I have no idea what to do about it." "Halfway?" Amelia asked, stepping closer. "Only halfway. I am trying to maintain some sense of propriety here. What if I do not want you to?" Nathan's eyes widened slightly. "Amelia, you need to be clear about what you are saying." "I am saying that I did not come west looking for love. I came running from tragedy, looking for any way to survive. But I found something here I never expected. I found someone who makes me feel safe and seen and valued. Someone who listens when I talk about my parents and does not tell me I should be over it by now. Someone who looks at me like I am stronger than I feel." She took a breath. "I am saying I am not halfway in love with you, Nathan Keller. I am completely, terrifyingly in love with you, and I have been for weeks." For a moment, Nathan just stared at her. Then he closed the distance between them in 2 strides and kissed her. His lips were cold at first, then warm, then hot. Amelia's hands came up to grip his coat as she kissed him back with all the pent-up longing she had been trying to deny. He tasted like winter and coffee and coming home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. "I have wanted to do that since Christmas. Why did you wait so long? Because you deserve better than a struggling rancher with no prospects but hard work and harsh winters. I deserve someone who treats me like I matter. Everything else is just details." She pulled back to look at him. "But Nathan, you need to understand. I have nothing to bring to this. No dowry, no connections, no useful skills beyond teaching. I am damaged goods in the eyes of the society I came from." "Good thing we are not in that society then. Here, you are just Amelia. Smart, resilient, brave Amelia who traveled across a country alone to start over. Who learned to bake bread and mend fences and find beauty in these mountains. That is all I need you to be. What about the gossip? Let them talk. We will give them something real to gossip about. Marry me, Amelia. Stay here not as an employee but as my wife. Build a life with me." It was too fast. They had only known each other 2 months. This was not how proper courtship worked. But then again, nothing about her life for the past year had been proper or expected, and when she looked at Nathan, she did not see a risky choice. She saw her future, clear and simple and right. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will marry you." He kissed her again, longer this time, his hands cupping her face like she was something precious. When they finally went back inside, hand in hand, everyone noticed. Martha Thomas caught Amelia's eye and gave her an approving nod. The Reverend looked pleased. The gossips whispered, but Amelia found she did not care. They stayed another hour, dancing only with each other, and then rode home through the crystalline night. In the house, Nathan built up the fire while Amelia made coffee. They sat together on the sofa, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her, planning. "We can have the wedding in March," Nathan said. "Spring thaw, easier for people to travel if you want to invite anyone." "I have no one to invite. But I would like Martha Thomas there and anyone else you care about. My sister will want to come. She is going to be thrilled. She has been after me to find someone for years." "Tell me about her." Nathan smiled. "Her name is Sarah. She is 3 years younger than me, stubborn as a mule, funny as hell. She married a shopkeeper named Robert. They have 2 little girls. She is going to love you." They talked until the fire burned low, about the wedding, about their future, about how they would manage the ranch together. Nathan wanted to expand the herd if they had a good spring. Amelia wanted to start a garden, maybe get some chickens. Small dreams, practical dreams, but they felt more real than any grand plans she had harbored back in Philadelphia. "I should go to bed," Amelia finally said, though she did not want to move from the warm circle of his arms. "I should let you." But Nathan kissed her again, softly this time, full of promise. 2 months until the wedding. It is going to feel like forever. We will be busy. Time will pass quickly. But the next 2 months felt suspended in amber, time moving both too fast and too slow. During the days, they worked side by side, Nathan teaching Amelia the rhythms of ranch life, Amelia bringing order and warmth to the house. In the evenings, they planned and dreamed, stealing kisses when they could. Always careful not to go too far, both of them wanting to do this right. Nathan rode to Salt Lake City and came back with a ring, simple gold with a small garnet. "It was my grandmother's," he explained as he slipped it on her finger. "My mother gave it to me before she died, told me to give it to the woman I could not live without." Amelia looked at the ring on her hand and thought about her mother's diamonds, sold to pay debts. This simple band meant more than all that jewelry ever had. Sarah arrived a week before the wedding with her husband Robert and their 2 daughters, ages 4 and 6. She took one look at Amelia and burst into tears. Thank God. I was so worried Nathan was going to die alone out here being stoic and noble. Sarah, Nathan said with exasperated affection, you have been here 5 minutes, and it took me 5 seconds to see you are in love. About time, big brother. She turned to Amelia and hugged her tight. Welcome to the family. I am so happy you are here. The week before the wedding was chaos. Sarah took over the kitchen, insisting on baking the wedding cake herself. Martha Thomas and several other women from town came to help clean and decorate. Amelia made her wedding dress from fabric Nathan bought in Salt Lake City, cream-colored wool that would be practical for her new life. Sarah helped with the sewing, and they talked for hours while they worked. He has been different since you arrived, Sarah told her. Lighter somehow. After Elizabeth left, he closed himself off. I thought he might never let anyone in again. But you got through. He saved my life. I got off that stage with nowhere to go and nothing to my name. He could have left me there to freeze and no one would have blamed him. That is not who Nathan is. He sees someone in trouble and he helps. It is how he is built. Sarah tied off a thread and examined her work. But helping is different from loving. What he feels for you, that is not obligation. That is real. The wedding day dawned clear and cold. Amelia stood in Sarah's old room, looking at herself in the small mirror. Her dress was simple but well made, the cream fabric bringing out the warmth in her brown hair and hazel eyes. She wore her hair half up, with small white flowers Sarah had somehow procured woven through the curls. She looked different from the frightened woman who arrived 3 months ago. She looked happy. Martha Thomas came to get her when it was time. The ceremony was in the community hall, the same place where Nathan had told her he loved her. Reverend Thomas stood at the front, and the room was filled with neighbors, all dressed in their Sunday best. But Amelia only saw Nathan. He stood waiting for her, wearing a new black suit that made his gray eyes stand out, his dark hair neatly combed. When he saw her, his face transformed with love and wonder. She walked to him, no father to give her away, but she did not need one. She was giving herself freely and completely. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They spoke their vows in steady voices, promising to love and honor each other, to work together through whatever came. When Nathan slipped the wedding band on her finger next to her grandmother's ring, Amelia felt a sense of rightness settle into her bones. I now pronounce you husband and wife, Reverend Thomas said with a broad smile. Nathan, you may kiss your bride. And he did, to cheers and applause from everyone gathered. Amelia kissed him back, not caring who was watching, pouring everything she felt into that kiss. When they broke apart, Nathan whispered, "Hello, Mrs. Keller." "Hello, husband." The reception was lively, with food and music and dancing. Amelia danced with Nathan, with Reverend Thomas, with old Mr. Peterson's son, who told her stories about Nathan as a boy. She laughed more than she had in a year, feeling light and free and loved. As evening fell, they said their goodbyes and rode home together, married. The house felt different when they entered it, full of new possibilities. Nathan built up the fire while Amelia changed out of her wedding dress into a nightgown. When she came down, he was waiting, and the look in his eyes made her blush. "Come here, wife," he said softly, and she went to him. He kissed her gently at first, then with growing passion. His hands trembled slightly as they traced the curve of her waist, her back. "I have dreamed of this," he murmured against her skin. "Dreamed of you." "Show me," Amelia whispered back. He carried her upstairs to his room, their room now, and laid her carefully on the bed. What followed was tender and awkward and beautiful. Two people learning each other, giving and receiving, becoming something more together than they had been separate. Afterwards, they lay tangled together, Nathan's arms around her, her head on his chest. "I love you," he said, kissing her hair. "I know I said it before, but I want to keep saying it. I love you, Amelia Keller. I love you too. And Nathan, I am so glad I got off that stage in Alta. I am so glad you were there. Best decision I ever made stopping to help. Best decision I ever made saying yes." They fell asleep like that, warm and safe, while outside the wind sang through the mountains and snow fell softly on their small ranch. Spring came late that year, but when it finally arrived, it was glorious. The snow melted, revealing brown earth that quickly turned green. Wildflowers bloomed in riotous color across the meadows. The cattle grew fat on new grass, and the ranch prospered. Amelia started teaching 3 days a week, riding to different ranches and homesteads scattered through the valley. The families paid what they could, sometimes in cash, sometimes in eggs or vegetables or preserves. She loved the work, loved seeing children's faces light up when they understood something new, but she loved coming home more. Loved seeing Nathan waiting for her, ready to hear about her day. Loved falling into the rhythm of their shared life, cooking dinner together, doing evening chores side by side, falling into bed exhausted and content. In June, she realized she was pregnant. She had suspected for a few weeks but wanted to be sure before saying anything. One evening after dinner, she took Nathan's hand and placed it on her still flat stomach. "There is someone new joining the ranch," she said, watching his face. Understanding dawned slowly, then exploded into joy. "Really? We are going to have a baby in January, if I am calculating right." Nathan let out a whoop and picked her up, spinning her around the kitchen. "We are having a baby. I am going to be a father. Put me down before you make me dizzy." He set her down but kept his hands on her waist, his face shining with happiness. "Are you happy about this?" "I know we have only been married 3 months. I am thrilled. Terrified but thrilled. Are you?" "I have never been happier in my life. Not when I paid off the ranch, not when I had my best year with the cattle, not any moment compares to this." He kissed her soundly. "We need to tell Sarah. She is going to lose her mind." They rode to town the next day and sent a telegram to Salt Lake City. Sarah's response came back within hours. "About time. Starting knitting now. Love you both." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Amelia continued teaching through summer and into fall, stopping only when the snows came and travel became difficult. Nathan fussed over her constantly, worried about her lifting heavy things or working too hard. She found it endearing even when it drove her slightly mad. They spent the winter preparing. Nathan built a cradle from pine wood, sanding it smooth as glass. Amelia sewed tiny clothes and blankets. Sarah sent packages from Salt Lake City filled with baby necessities and advice. The baby came on a cold January night, almost exactly a year after Amelia had arrived in Alta. The labor was long and hard, attended by Martha Thomas, who had delivered most of the babies in the valley. Nathan paced downstairs, probably wearing a track in the floor, until Martha finally called him up. "Come meet your son," she said with a tired smile. Nathan burst into the room and stopped, staring. Amelia sat propped against pillows, exhausted and sweaty and more beautiful than he had ever seen her, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a blue blanket. "We have a son," she said, her voice full of wonder. "Nathan, we made a son." He sat carefully on the edge of the bed and looked at the tiny red face of his child. The baby had dark hair, and when he opened his eyes, they were gray. "He is perfect. You are perfect. What should we name him?" "I was thinking James, after my father, if that is all right with you." "James Keller, I like it. James Nathan Keller." "Hello, James." Amelia whispered to the baby. "Welcome to your family." Those first weeks were exhausting and magical. James was a good baby, healthy and strong lunged. He kept them up at night, but neither of them minded. Nathan would pace the floor at 2 in the morning, holding his son, singing off-key lullabies while Amelia tried to catch a few hours of sleep. Sarah came to visit in March, bringing her girls and an absurd amount of gifts. She cried when she held James, and told Amelia and Nathan how proud she was of the family they were building. As James grew, the ranch grew with him. Nathan expanded the herd, hired another hand to help with the increased work. Amelia reduced her teaching to 1 day a week so she could spend more time at home. They were busy, constantly working, but it was the good kind of busy, the kind that built something lasting. On a warm evening in May, when James was 4 months old and sleeping peacefully in his cradle, Amelia and Nathan sat on the porch watching the sun set behind the mountains. Nathan had his arm around her, and she leaned into his warmth. "You ever think about Philadelphia?" he asked. "Ever wish you could go back?" Amelia considered the question. She thought about the photograph she had carried through the snow that night, the one that now sat on the mantel inside. She thought about her parents, how much she still missed them. But when she thought about going back, she felt nothing but relief that she did not have to. "No," she said honestly. "That life is gone, and I have spent enough time mourning it. This is my life now. You, James, this ranch, these mountains. This is home." "You walked through snow holding a photograph of home," Nathan said thoughtfully. "And I got to give you a new home to hold. You gave me more than a home. You gave me a future I did not think I would have. You gave me love when I had lost everything. You gave me a family." "We gave each other those things," Nathan corrected. "You saved me just as much as I saved you. I was dying out here alone. I just did not realize it until you arrived and showed me what living actually felt like." James made a small sound from inside, and Amelia smiled. "I should feed him before he really wakes up. I will come with you." They stood together and went inside their house, filled with all the small domestic details of a shared life. Nathan stoked the fire while Amelia settled into the rocking chair with James. The baby latched on hungrily, and Amelia stroked his soft hair while he ate. Nathan sat nearby, watching his wife and son with an expression of profound contentment. "I have been thinking we should expand the house. Add on another bedroom or two, for when more children come along." "Already planning for more?" Amelia asked with a laugh. "Well, James is going to need siblings, and I like being a father. I like our family." "I like our family too, and I like the idea of expanding, maybe a bigger kitchen while we are at it. So we have room for all those children to help with cooking." "How many children are we talking about here?" "Oh, I do not know, 3, 4, however many come along." Nathan grinned. "I can work with that." Over the next years, their family did grow. A daughter named Mary arrived when James was 2, with Amelia's brown hair and Nathan's gray eyes. Then another son, Thomas, born 3 years after that. Each birth added more love to their home, more chaos, more joy. The ranch prospered. Nathan became known throughout the territory for his quality cattle and his fair business practices. Amelia's teaching expanded into a small school that met in their expanded house, serving children from a dozen families scattered through the mountains. Together, they built something that mattered, something that lasted. On their 10th anniversary, Nathan surprised Amelia with a trip to Salt Lake City, their first time away from the ranch and children since James was born. Sarah took the children for the week, and Amelia and Nathan stayed in a real hotel with indoor plumbing and electric lights. They went to a restaurant with white tablecloths and multiple courses. They attended a concert. They wandered through shops, and Nathan bought Amelia an impractical hat she loved. But mostly, they just enjoyed being together without the constant demands of ranch life and parenthood. "You ever regret it?" Amelia asked one evening as they walked hand in hand through the city. "Taking in a desperate stranger all those years ago. Not for a single second. Best decision of my life." He stopped and turned to face her, holding both her hands. "You gave me everything, Amelia. A home that feels like home, not just a place I work. Children who light up my world. A partnership that makes me better than I am alone. You walked into my life carrying grief and fear, and somehow we transformed those things into this beautiful life we share. You did the same for me. I was broken when I arrived, Nathan. I thought my life was over at 23. And you showed me it was just beginning." He kissed her there on the street, not caring who saw. "Here is to another 10 years, and another 10 after that, and as many more as we get. I love you, Nathan Keller." "I love you too, Amelia Keller. Always have, always will." They returned to the ranch and their children, sliding back into their life with the ease of long practice. James, now 10, was already helping with the cattle and showing signs of his father's love for the land. Mary, 8, followed Amelia everywhere, learning to cook and sew and teaching her younger brother his letters. Thomas, at 5, was all energy and mischief, keeping everyone on their toes. Years continued to pass, marked by the changing seasons and the growth of their children. James grew into a strong young man who took over more of the ranch work, giving Nathan time to expand into breeding horses. Mary became a teacher herself, working alongside her mother. Thomas went off to college in Salt Lake City, the first in their family to do so, studying agriculture with plans to bring modern farming techniques back to Alta. Nathan's hair turned gray at the temples, then fully silver. Amelia found lines around her eyes and mouth that had not been there before, evidence of all the years of laughter and hard work. But when they looked at each other, they still saw the two people who fell in love over flapjacks and fireside conversations. On a spring evening much like so many others, when they were both in their 50s, they sat on the porch watching the sunset. James and his wife lived in a house Nathan had built on the edge of the ranch property with their 3 children. Mary lived in town with her husband, the school teacher who had moved to Alta 2 years ago, expecting their first child. Thomas had just returned from college and was full of ideas for improving the ranch. "We did good, did we not?" Nathan said, his arm around Amelia like always. "Built something worth building." "We did excellent," Amelia agreed. "Sometimes I think about that night I got off the stage, how desperate and lost I felt. I could not have imagined any of this. 3 children, grandchildren on the way, a life so full I can barely contain it all. I think about that night too. Think about how close I came to just riding home without stopping, letting someone else deal with the problem. But something made me stop. Fate, instinct, my mother's voice in my head, I do not know, but I am grateful every day that I did." "Do you still have that photograph?" Nathan asked. "The one of your parents, of course. It is in my dresser drawer. I look at it sometimes, tell them about their grandchildren, about the life I built here. I think they would be proud, or at least I hope they would. They would be proud. You took unimaginable loss and turned it into something beautiful. That takes strength and courage." Amelia thought about the woman she had been, the frightened girl clutching a photograph and trying to survive one more day. That woman felt like a stranger now, someone from another life entirely. But she was also grateful to that woman for being brave enough to keep going, to accept help, to risk her heart one more time. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For seeing me that night, for offering help, for giving me a home, a family, a future. For loving me even when I was too broken to love myself, for being the kind of man worth spending a lifetime with." Nathan pulled her closer. "You do not have to thank me for loving you. That was never a choice, not really. From the moment you turned around in that snow with your lost eyes and brave face, I was gone. Just took me a while to realize it. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the mountains turn purple in the fading light. Inside, they could hear Thomas moving around, starting dinner. Somewhere in the distance, cattle lowed. A hawk circled overhead, riding the thermal currents. Life continued in its eternal rhythms, seasons turning, generations growing, the land enduring. "I want to be buried here," Amelia said suddenly. "When my time comes. Not sent back east to some family plot I do not remember. Here, on this land in these mountains. We will be buried together," Nathan said firmly. "Side by side, looking out at those peaks. We started our life together here, and we will rest together here. Our children, their children, and all the ones that come after will know this is where we belonged." "Promise me something else," Amelia said. "If I go first, do not let yourself fade away. Keep living, keep working the ranch, keep being part of this family we built." "I cannot promise that would be easy. I am not asking for easy. I am asking you to keep living until it is time for you to join me. Our children will need you. The ranch will need you. Do not give up just because I am gone." Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "All right, I promise. But you have to promise me the same. If I go first, you keep teaching, keep being the heart of this family. No fading into grief and memory. I promise." But in the end, they did not have to face that separation for many more years. They grew old together, watching their grandchildren become teenagers, then young adults. They celebrated 50 years of marriage with a party that brought together 3 generations of family and friends from across the territory. They weathered hard winters and droughts, bad cattle years and good ones, always together, always a team. Nathan died on a cold January morning when he was 74, quietly in his sleep with Amelia beside him. He had worked the ranch the day before, insisting he was fine despite the chest pains he had been having for weeks. Amelia woke at dawn to find him gone, his face peaceful, his hand still holding hers. The grief was profound, cutting, the loss of someone who had been woven into every part of her life for more than 50 years. But Amelia kept her promise. She got up each day. She taught her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She helped James run the ranch. She lived, because that was what Nathan would have wanted, because their love deserved that honor. She lived for 3 more years. Years filled with her family and the land she had come to love as deeply as Nathan had. On a spring evening, sitting on the porch and watching the sunset, surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, Amelia closed her eyes and simply did not open them again. They buried her next to Nathan on a hillside overlooking the ranch, their graves marked with simple headstones that said their names and dates, and one more thing. On Nathan's stone, he gave her a home to hold. On Amelia's, she brought love to fill it. Their story became legend in Alta, the tale of the desperate woman who arrived in a blizzard and the cowboy who saved her, and how they built an enduring legacy together. Their descendants still work the ranch, still teach in the schools, still carry forward the values Nathan and Amelia instilled. The house has been expanded several times, but the original structure remains, the heart of it all. And if you go to Alta, Utah, and climb up to that hillside cemetery on a clear day, you can see what Nathan and Amelia saw every evening of their life together. The mountains rising eternal and beautiful, the valley green and thriving below, the vast sky overhead. You can understand why a frightened woman found peace here, and why a lonely man found love. You can understand why they chose this hard, beautiful life, and why they never once regretted it. Their great-great-granddaughter still has the photograph, the one Amelia carried through the snow that night. It sits on a mantel in the ranch house, next to photos of Nathan and Amelia, their children, and all the generations that followed. Two long-dead people staring out from a Philadelphia townhouse, never knowing that their daughter's tragedy would lead to something so enduring. Never knowing that loss could transform into love, that ending could become beginning, that sometimes the worst moments of our lives are just the path to where we were meant to be all along. Because Amelia walked through snow holding a photograph of home, and Nathan gave her a new home to hold. And in that simple exchange, in that moment of compassion and courage, they created something that lasted far beyond their own lifetimes. They created a love story for the ages, a family that would span generations, a legacy carved not in stone or silver but in the lives they touched, and the children they raised, and the land they tended with such care. They had started with nothing but hope and determination. They built an empire of love, and when people asked their children and grandchildren what made Nathan and Amelia so special, the answer was always the same. They saw each other, truly saw each other, in a moment when both needed seeing. And they chose each other every day, through good times and hard times, through joy and sorrow, through all the ordinary moments that make up a life. They chose each other, and that made all the difference.